Hello, Caps fans, and welcome back to the Janaea Talks Caps podcast. So we're about 3/4, give or take, through the regular season, and the Caps are doing what has pretty much become their annual routine, which is to turn it on to a nuclear level following the All-Star break. With last night's win over New Jersey, your Washington Capitals are now 13-4-1 since the All-Star break. And since the calendar flipped to February. Currently, they've won 6 straight, reclaiming their rightful place atop of the Metropolitan Division, a division which, of course, they have won the last 3 years in a row. So let's talk about the week that just was and how they've gotten to this point where they're at now, which is, of course, sitting in first place. So first, let's start with the game against Barry Trotz's Islanders on Long Island. You will probably remember this particular arena as the shithole that Alex Ovechkin and friends shut down in 2015 with their playoff series victory over John Tavares' Islanders. Tavares, who has only ever won but a single playoff series and yet is somehow being hailed as the answer to Toronto's playoff woes. Yeah, right. Bruins in 5, 6 tops. Anyways, the Islanders' first and only goal in this game was about 387 feet offside by my estimation, but no matter. The linesmen don't care. YOLO. The Capitals would score the next 3, with Jakub Vrana getting things started and Alex Ovechkin providing the game winner, because of course he did. TJ Oshie would get credit for the empty net goal at the end of the game after Josh Bailey, for some reason, decides to make a blind pass into his own team's empty cage. I would say that that's probably the easiest goal that TJ Oshie has ever scored, but have you ever seen him ripping it high glove side on Matt Murray? So the Caps, they beat the Islanders 3-1 and walk out of Long Island with a huge 2 points. The Caps have been slowly but surely gaining on the Isles for a couple of weeks now, barely losing any games at all, while the rival Islanders have dropped a few here or there. And this game was the pinnacle if you had any doubt that the Caps mean business about taking first place in the Metro and, as a result, home ice in the Stanley Cup playoffs. The boys in red, white, and blue are here to tell you that they don't just mean business, they've already got their business license and have opened a business checking account. They move on to the Big Apple for a matinee game on Sunday. And as many of you know, I was actually at this game all the way from Vancouver, British Columbia. Thanks, babe, for the tickets and for listening to me chirp at Rangers fans all afternoon long. Anyways, our Capitals did not disappoint. This one was worth the price of admission and the airfare from Van City as well. It did not start off very well, as we were actually trying to figure out, it being our first time to Madison Square Garden, we were trying to figure out how the hell to get to our seats, and just as we were finally finding the entrance to our section, the home goal horn blasted to signal that the Rangers had just scored. And I'm like, what the hell? It can't have been more than a minute since the game started. And nope, it was 45 seconds. Typical Caps hockey. But luckily for us, it is also typical Caps hockey for them to go on to win the game, which they did. But I will get to that in a second. So we took our seats as the teams lined up for the face-off after the Rangers goal. And shortly after we took our seats, the Caps scored. Almost as if they were waiting for us. Carl Hagelin, the new Capital, playing against his former team. He scores for the good guys. We stood up and cheered. I may have yelled something along the lines of, way to stick it to those Yankee fucks. I love seeing guys score against their former teams. Hopefully Hags has got a lot of goals against former teams ready to go for when we inevitably face Schittsburg in the playoffs, just like every single year, because really, who wants to see anything different? Then, a few minutes later, just as I was chirping Andrei Burakovsky, something to the effect of, oh, here comes Burakovsky, so you know this puck isn't going in, he scores as well. So for those of you who don't know me, I have sort of a special talent in that I can start chirping anyone, and literally immediately after I have started chirping them, that person will go score a goal. like immediately afterwards. It's uncanny. So anyways, there was one more goal scored by the Rangers, which is a lot for them, but it's okay because we did totally dominate the game, and the shots at the end of regulation and overtime were 39-24 for the Capitals. So it was a great game to watch. There was also a lot of hating on Tom Wilson going on from the Yahoos sitting right behind us. One guy kept yelling that Tom Wilson's an asshole, and Tom Wilson's a douchebag, and Tom Wilson's a talentless plug. To which I turned around and simply reminded him, in a calm tone, of course, that talentless plug, Tom Wilson, would actually be the leading scorer on his Rangers right now, despite the fact that Tom missed 16 games due to suspension. What he's done in just 46 and a half games would still be enough to be the leading scorer on this ragtag bunch of shit stains that you call a hockey team, but whatever, it's none of my business. So we didn't hear another peep out of Buddy for the rest of the game. It was like a church service in there. And then, of course, we go to the shootout. Like I said, we're getting our money's worth, and TJ Oshie comes up to be the next shooter. I, of course, being a Caps fan, I already knew that this puck was going in the net before the attempt even happened. It's TJ Oshie, for Christ's sake. I'm cheering before the frickin' puck even gets placed on the center dot. Oshie comes in and rips it and scores. But for some reason, every Rangers fan in the entire building thought that Georgiev saved it. Sorry, nope, sit down. I knew it was in right away. I didn't even have to look. It was in and out so fast that none of these Rangers fans even saw it. They were all naturally pretty disappointed when they realized that it had actually gone in the net. Then at one point, St. Nicholas Backstrom had to score to keep the Capitals alive and to keep the shootout going. Again, I knew who was going to score. I didn't even have to watch. His name is St. Nicholas, for crying out loud. And then after Holtby made a save on the Rags, Alex Ovechkin has an opportunity to win it. You really could not rate this one any better for myself, as he's been my favorite player ever since really the day that he was drafted. And it's pretty cool because I really don't think there's any player in sports right now who elicits the type of reaction from fans that Alex Ovechkin does. Everybody in the whole building was standing, Capitals and Rangers fans alike. So Ovi comes in, dekes Georgiev out of his underwear, and the grade 8 is staring at a wide open cage. But hold on a second. Georgiev hurls his stick at Ovechkin, knocking the puck off of Ovi's stick just as he's about to put it in the open net. Ovechkin throws his hands up right away. He knows that that's not allowed. The ignorant Rangers fans are jeering at Ovechkin, thinking that they're going to get to continue along their merry way in this shootout because they don't know the rule. And I look down at the other end of the ice, and the normally cool as a cucumber Braden Holtby was absolutely losing his mind over this one. He was losing his shit. And if you know anything about Braden Holtby, you know two things. Number one, he does not lose his cool, like ever, unless something really warrants it. And number two, if there was anyone in the building who would know every single last one of all of the obscure rules in this beautiful game of hockey that we love, it would be Sir Braden Holtby. The dude would have been a professor if he hadn't been a goalie. You can take that to the bank right now. So people should have known that if Braden Holtby thinks it's a goal, there's a pretty good chance it's a goal. You can mark it down. But alas, the Rangers fans did not know the rule. The referees on the ice did not know the rule either, and they were about to actually make their ill-advised guess an official ruling before the War Room in Toronto called them up and informed them that they were getting it wrong. As a goalie, myself, I happen to know that this was the rule. You're not allowed to do that. You cannot, as a goalie, throw your stick to knock the puck away from an opposing player on a shootout attempt. Again, I already knew this because I'm a goalie myself, and thus the goal is awarded to Ovechkin. The Caps win. Life is good. Now, just a note here, but seriously, how pathetic is it that not one of the officials on the ice knew the rule here? I mean, isn't knowing the rules of the game sort of a prerequisite to officiating the games? Because if not, then it should be. I hope you're listening, Mr. Bettman, because this was a clown show of 4 officials on the ice. Not a single one of them knew the rule, and the Caps almost got screwed because of it. Next, the Capitals moved on to Philadelphia. I almost said Philadelphia. So used to saying it. Shouldn't say it on the podcast, though. So the Capitals moved on to Philadelphia, where they ran up a 5-0 lead over the Flyers before the game was even halfway through. On goals from Tom Wilson, Brett Connolly, Andrei Burakovsky, Nicklas Backstrom, and you guessed it, Alex Ovechkin. It was Ovechkin's 46th goal of the season, by the way. He is 33 years old, and he is still better than all of the 20-somethings in this league. I'm just saying. Anyways, those 5 goals would turn out to be enough, as the Flyers would make it interesting with a couple of goals early in the third period, but the Capitals would lock it down after that and secure the 5-3 victory. I'm not going to be too hard on the Flyers. I'm not going to be too mean to them because they actually have been doing us a couple of favors lately, beating the Islanders a couple of times. So that's really helped us out. So thank you, Philly, and we will just leave it at that. The victory over the Flyers as well, it was Braden Holtby's 250th win, coming in just his 409th game, which is the second fastest mark in NHL history. He's second only to the great Ken Dryden, who did it in 381 games. So anytime that you are second only to some guy named Ken Dryden, that's obviously a great day. And then lastly, we had the game on Friday at home at Capital One Arena against the New Jersey Devils, who were playing with about 8 actual NHL players in their lineup, thanks to a slew of injuries and a roster that would have been pretty thin, even with no injuries. So given the circumstance, i.e. New Jersey's lineup and the fact that the Caps were at home, this was pretty much a must-win game. Okay, maybe not a must-win, but definitely a should-win in order to feel good about yourselves and to keep your winning streak alive, that type of game. And win it they did, 3-0. Andrei Burakovsky scored again. Nicklas Backstrom scored again on probably the sickest pass you will ever see, by the way, courtesy of John Carlson. He threaded it through like 100 guys to get it to Backstrom right in front of the net, and then Backstrom just tapped it in, and Lars Eller finally got off the proverbial schneid as well with a goal of his own, sinking one into the empty net, which is sometimes exactly what you have to do in order to get the monkey off your back when you've been as snake-bitten as Eller has been this season, so that had to feel good for him. It was a good team win overall, with the Caps again heavily outshooting the opposition in a game in which, on paper, they should have heavily outshot the opposition, so that's good. And Braden Holtby recorded his 35th career shutout, tying the franchise record held by Capitals great Ole Kolzig. And in preserving the shutout, he also made a flying across the crease split save that had every dude in the entire building reaching for their nuts out of vicarious concern. It was an insane save, and at that point the game was only 1-0, so it was a big one on the Devils' power play. So, boys and girls and babes, that was the week. And before I go, I also just want to give a shout out to our amazing flight attendant that we had, Lisa, on our flight from Vancouver to New York. Basically what happened was we were on our flight from Vancouver to New York. I happened to be wearing my Capitals Stanley Cup Champions hat. As I so often do, I wear my Capitals gear on the flight wherever we're going. And our flight attendant, again, her name was Lisa, she came and there was nobody sitting in the seat next to us. There was only 2 of us in 3 seats, and so she came and just sat down right next to us, and she asked, she saw my hat, and, oh, are you guys Capitals fans? And we said yes, of course. And then she's like, oh, do you know who number 10 is? And I'm like, number 10, of course, it's Brett Connolly. He's one of my favorite players. He's awesome. So anyways, she proceeds to tell us that her daughter is actually best friends with Brett Connolly's wife, Katrina. And I guess she was our flight attendant, Lisa's daughter, was a bridesmaid at Brett and Katrina's wedding. So anyways, we got to talking, we were talking caps, we were talking about a lot of stuff, and so anyways, eventually, before she went to go get back to the rest of the people on the plane, she asked me if she could get an email address from me. So I said, of course. I didn't really know why she was asking for it, but I had no problem at all. She was such a nice lady. So I wrote down my email address for her, just my name and my email address. She had mentioned that she was going to be likely having dinner, I believe that same night, with her daughter and possibly with Katrina Connolly as well. So anyways, she takes my email address. We eventually get off the flight. We go around, see New York City, which is amazing, by the way. And long story short, the next morning, you remember that the Capitals game at Madison Square Garden, it was a matinee game, so it was beginning at 12:30, I believe, local time. So we wake up the next morning, and I wake up, first thing I usually do every morning is check the time on my phone to see what time it is, and my emails and things come up on the front of my phone screen. So we wake up, and I happen to see that I have an email from Katrina Connolly. So, of course, I freak out a little bit, open up the email, and it was like a full-page email that she had taken the time out of her day to write that email to me. And basically, she was just saying, you know, thank you guys so much for all of the support that you show to the team, to the Caps, and to my husband specifically, to Brett Connolly. You know, she thanked us for being such great fans and traveling all that way, all the way from Vancouver to New York City to see the game. And basically it was just like literally a full page email, just thanking us for our support. And, you know, she, I don't know if you guys know, but Brett Connolly is from Vancouver Island as well, which is actually where I am from as well. So we have that in common. So she mentioned that in the email. I guess Lisa had told her that as well. And so yeah, the point is, she had written me like a full page email just thanking us for our support as fans, which I thought was so nice and so cool. And then she also, at the end of the email there, she also asked me if I would be comfortable to give a mailing address. She wanted to send me something signed once she got back to DC, back to Washington. So anyways, basically just wanted to mention that because it just shows that there's so many reasons why we love this team. Obviously, they're an amazing hockey team. They're great on the ice. They're very, very talented. They won the Stanley Cup last year. Lots of us have been fans for a long time, and obviously their play on the ice is a big part of that. But I know that for a lot of us fans as well, a big part of why we love this team so much is because they're such great guys and such great people, and they have such great families off the ice as well. And I think this was just one of those times where that really comes to the forefront, and that was really shown in the fact that just I was really just blown away that, you know, she took the time out of her day to write up that email and to send me that email. Of course, she's going to be busy. You know, she's probably got a lot going on. You know, obviously, I believe she was in New York City as well. That's what Lisa had said. Probably taking in the game as well, and, you know, spending time with family and friends and catching up on all those things. So it just really hit home for me, and just really blew me away that she actually took the time out of her day to write up that email to me and to send that to me and to make my day. So just wanted to mention that because I think it's a really important part of hockey as well, and it's a really big part of why we all love the Caps as much as we do, is because not only they're great players on the ice, but they're great people off of the ice as well, and obviously they have great spouses and great partners and great families. So I thought that was really cool. So I just wanted to say thank you to Katrina Connolly, if she ever listens to this. Probably not, but thank you so much. And thank you to Lisa as well, our amazing flight attendant. And I just want to give a shout out to her because she was literally probably the nicest lady that you could ever hope to meet. Just working on the Air Canada flight. If you guys, if any of you ever fly Air Canada, be sure to keep an eye out for Lisa. And yeah, so that was my story. That's pretty much all that I wanted to talk about today, just kind of the week in review. We have another big game coming up, obviously, against the Winnipeg Jets on Sunday. Hopefully we can get another 2 points. For anyone that's been scoreboard watching the way that I have, the New York Islanders, they lost again tonight to the Philadelphia Flyers again. So again, Philly, thank you. You're helping us out. And so the Caps, they now own first place, sole possession. They own sole possession of first place at the moment. They basically... The Capitals right now, they control their own destiny. So as long as the Caps keep winning, they can lock up first place in the Metropolitan Division. And as a result, obviously, lock up home ice in the playoffs, which would be huge. Capital One Arena, obviously, an amazing atmosphere to play a hockey game. So that would be big for them. And hope to talk to all of you soon.